Hi, my name is Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies, and I want to talk about the Elite Verdict and what I've changed on it, and we're going to shoot it and see how I go. Now, I just did a video on the PSE Dominator M2 cam, and I struggled shooting it. Found the bow lovely to shoot, but I struggled and I was exhausted afterwards, mentally fatigued. I was so exhausted. I went inside and I said, that's the worst I've ever shot. So coming from that, I was like, what do I do now? Do I shoot a recurve or do I go and shoot a compound? So I thought I'll come out and shoot the Verdict. So now I shot this in a competition a couple of weeks ago and it was too heavy for me, the physical weight. So I've dropped some weights off. Now I've put the same amount of weights on either side. So you can see I've got a little bit of thread coming off here, which I'll have to fix. I've moved these around because the thread was on this side. I've reduced the weights at the front. So I had a pile of weights on. These are 2 tungsten, so 8 ounces on the front. So that's what I've done. So we're going to shoot it to see how I shoot with it at 18 meters, and hopefully it doesn't shoot as bad as I just shot because that was just exhausting. So I've got competition coming up, Masters Games, and I'm going to be shooting a compound for part of it. I'm going to be shooting recurve for part of it. And I want to shoot a few competitions with the compound. So, and I haven't decided which compound I'm shooting. So I'm going to be testing a few compound bows. So now I've got this one in a brown, and I've also got one which was traded in, which is green, and I rather like green. And I think with green strings, so I could make up some green strings for it and make it like look a bit blingy. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment, right? So I don't know whether to stick with brown or go to green. Let's have a look at this bow, see how it shoots, because I've been shooting a lot of recurve lately, and I haven't shot compound much since coming back from heart surgery because the bow was just too heavy. So I really like the adjustability on this. I like the tunability. I like limb locking. So I've dropped the weights off. So let's sort of see how I shoot with it. See, now I'm not like this when I originally tied this D loop on. Like it sits there. It's good. It's the right length. But I'd rather have like tie in below and above. But let's go and see how we shoot. Now I'll say the bow sits beautifully on the target and the weight feels great in the hand. After the shot it feels good, feels really good overall. I like the grip. The draw cycle. So this bow should be set on 60 pounds. Let's just check to make sure. It's fully wound in. No pain at all in my chest. So I'm going to say this bow is significantly slower than the Dominator with the ME2. But I have no pain whatsoever on my chest. So this is where 60 pounds is not 60 pounds. Because this bow draws so much easier than the PSE. However, you don't get the same amount of speed because you're not pulling back 60 pounds for as long. So like it's just a nice easy draw, like I can let it down at any stage. Feels nice. I think I put from memory, I put the smooth modules on this one. So it came with the fast mods, and I fitted the smooth ones just to make it a little bit more comfortable to shoot. I changed the valley to reduce the valley a little bit, but this is a very nice. One of the girls who's in the Australian team brought in her elite result for me to fix the strings. So I fixed the strings and I took it for a shoot. Lovely blow. And you know, I had a result, as you probably know, for a while until I changed to the Verdict. Look, it's a lovely bow. I really couldn't pick the difference. I like the roller slide because I feel less jump forward. But I was very happy with it, and I really like shooting her bow. in the shop. Why do I mention that? Because I just did it. So one of the things when I'm lining up the bow, sometimes my peep doesn't line up with the scope exactly. And that's just because I've moved something on my head position. So like that shot wasn't lined up exactly. So the more you shoot, the more things will be lined up exactly. Look, I don't know where these arrows are going because I can't see that far. I'm going to say they all feel like they're in the 10. But then they all felt like they were in the 10 with the Dominator, and they've all felt like they're in the 10 when I've shot recurve lately. I get down the target and the arrows are everywhere. So, God, I hope these arrows aren't everywhere. It drains me when I try so hard and I fail. It physically just... it takes a toll. It's interesting. So it's interesting. When I put these arrows on my bow and look, the points are sort of stuck over the edge by about 2 inches. And it makes me think that one of the Australian coaches says like just the millimetre of the point difference in thickness affects wind, and I think, well, my arrows are that far out the front of the bow. How much does that affect wind drift? And then I think about one of my friends down in Melbourne. She's one of the top archers ever in Australia, Mandy. Mandy McArdle, one of the greatest archers Australia's ever produced. She used to, like, I remember her arrows, they used to sit out the front of the bow by literally miles, and she'd just be like bang, 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 one of the world's greatest archers. And I used to think, is it because, like, are her arrows out the front of the bow by so far because it's more forgiving than them being right on the rest? And I never knew the answer, but I think the answer is she just shot more than everyone else, and just a really, really good archer. And her dad obviously shot, so I think they used to shoot a lot. She's older now because she's the same age as me, but as a junior, an amazing archer. And I imagine if she's shooting now, because I know she shoots now, I imagine she's still an amazing archer. But let's go down and see where those arrows are. People are going to think, well, that's still not an amazing group, Stephen, because they're not all in the 10. Like, for me, that's amazing. And when I say for me that's amazing, this is my first end back, and I've just first end back with this bow. I just bolted the weights on, and I'm like, look, this feels pretty good, bang, bang, bang. And some of those shots I said the peep didn't align with the scope. Well, look, that's because, like, that went there. It's like the grips are still good, right? And it's all about your expectations and what you think. For me, I am like more than happy with that, and it makes me feel good when I see that in the target. Shooting the Dominator just before this, I felt so drained, I felt exhausted, I felt like I was trying my best and I was failing. I just was like, I don't know why I'm failing so much. And then I think, well, PSE is going to hate me, and I'm going to lose my dealership, and, you know, anyway. So I was like, well, am I going to come out and shoot compound, or am I going to come and shoot recurve? And I'm like, look, I need to do a bit of work with this Elite to see if I'm going to shoot this in the championship, in the Masters games coming up, and competitions. I've got to get the weight feeling right because it wasn't feeling right before. And I've just got to feel comfortable with a bow. And then I've got to decide between green and black, so green and brown. So let's go out there and shoot this, and let's shoot another video, because I think people struggle with this stuff. I think people struggle with expectations on the target on what to shoot. I think they struggle with bow setup and what feels comfortable to them, because every day people come in and go, look, adding more weights or taking weights off. And they ask me, and I feel like I don't know if I feel like I'm not giving people the information they want or desire, or whether I can't give them the information they want or desire, because it's personal feel. I see some people with massive weights out one side, high and low. It's personal feel, and you've got to go and shoot it. You've got to go and do it. You've got to put the work in for preparation and then go and shoot, and then you've got to try stuff and shoot and try stuff and shoot, try stuff and shoot. And then hopefully when you shoot that competition, and hopefully when you shoot at home, you shoot good groups and you feel good about shooting. And you feel even better about shooting that you put all that work in at the back of it. So you put in heaps of work, and it's frustrating, and then you get it. And that's when it's going to feel good, because all the work you put in beforehand to get the result at the end. If it just comes naturally, you think, what is this all about? So I felt really good with that. The bow feels really good to me. I'm not happy about that thread being out to the side. So it's got cheap V-bars on. I'm thinking about getting some decent quality V-bars on the back end. Those V-bars are like $40 each. So I'm thinking about getting a better one, because sometimes the carbon twists from the aluminium housing. So maybe I'll get some better ones on there. And I'm not comfortable about the colours, because I've got gold and red, and all of which has no impact on scores and how the bow feels to shoot. But when the competition comes, I want to have a bit of a blingy bow which looks a bit cool. But the bow feels great, the draw length feels great, the weights feel great. I'm happy with the V-bars, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I think what I'll do is I'll shoot some scores. I don't need to do a video on the scores. I think I'll shoot some scores and then get back to putting time into the recurve. And then I have to think about whether I'll shoot this for 3D, the Verdict for 3D, and I have to think about scopes, whether I shoot a bigger scope for 3D, because when you shoot 3D, you're aiming at an animal. So I've got to think about that, and I've got to think about whether I want the brown bow or the green bow. Anyway, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. These are all real-world problems that you're going to face in archery, what colour bow to choose, and literally even blind people go through this. And why am I mentioning blind people? Because blind people are the most picky people when it comes to colours than anyone. And I'm not picking on blind people. It's just, when you think you can't see the colours and they're blind people are really picky with colours from what I've seen in archery. And you think blind people shooting bows and arrows, and yes, blind people shoot bows and arrows, and they're really picky with colours. So anyway, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Thanks for watching. Bye.